At the beginning of every new year on this channel, we always like to count down our favorite stuff from the previous year. So today on Comic Class, we're celebrating New Year's Evil. Okay, I guess that pun really only worked if I had made this video a week and a half ago, but we're counting down villains, everyone! Yes, what's a good comic without a good villain? Unless it's an indie comic where the villain is our protagonist's own doubts or society itself. Yeah, those probably won't be on this list. But these were the bad guys who were the biggest thorns in our hero's sides, the most malicious, the most manipulative, the most sinister all year long. But before we begin, here are some honorable mentions. Grandpa Bowman from Redneck. The Bowmans are a family of vampires who are trying to adapt and live alongside with humans. But Grandpa Bowman ain't having that. He wants to go back to the old days when humans were nothing but cattle for vampires, and he's going to bring those days back no matter what. The Minotaur from Kill the Minotaur. He didn't make the list simply because he's pretty much just a big monster, but he's a damn scary big monster. He's some grotesque sack of flesh and teeth and horns that just can't be put down and keeps coming back bigger and badder every time you try. Jackson Logger from Shirtless Bear Fighter. Imagine if the head of the Charmin Toilet Paper Company was combined with Lex Luthor. That's Jackson Logger. Yes, it's a crazy idea, but he's from a book called Shirtless Bear Fighter. He has to be a crazy idea to work in that series, and like everything else in that book, he's just the right amount of hilariously stupid to pull it all off. Now onto the official number 10, EOBARD THAWNE, Professor Zoom. Now, I could nominate him because this year he had his final showdown with the Flash. Final being in huge quotation marks since he seems to always find a way to come back no matter what. But he did have a storyline where we found out his true origin, his reason for hating the Flash, and he basically tormented the Flash with visions of his future like a ghost from a Charles Dickens story. But the main reason I'm putting him on this list is for the one-issue fight he had with Batman. This one fight was one of the most villainous moments of the year. He could have finished Batman off easily, but he spent an entire minute toying with him. And yes, a minute isn't very long, but for a speedster, a minute is a lifetime. He pummeled Batman, wrecked his cave, and destroyed the message his father had left for him while Bats could only look on helplessly. And after years and years of DC saying Batman is the greatest hero ever because he has a plan to stop everyone and he is prepared for everything and he can take on any villain because of prep time, just watching a full issue of THAWNE coming in here and saying, "No, you can't, you idiot," and beating him senselessly, yeah, it was kind of chilling. Number 9 is STRYFE. The evil clone of Cable had been gone from the spotlight for a while, but this year, when Deadpool's loved ones were inflicted with a virus, he had to get desperate. He had to make a deal with the devil. So he turned to the one person he knew could save them, and STRYFE was more than willing to help under the condition that Deadpool was now his pawn. Deadpool had spent years trying to turn his career as a villainous assassin around, trying to become a hero, but now he owed a villain a huge favor, and STRYFE was coming to collect. He was going to make Deadpool into his own hired gun, forcing him to go and kill whatever hero he wanted, knowing that he had no way to resist. Number 8 is Mr. Mxyzptlk. For months, people had been wondering who this mystery second Clark Kent was. Superman had done every test he could to determine who this imposter was, but it all came back saying it was really Clark Kent. How could this imposter trick everyone? Well, maybe if they were a 5th dimensional imp with power over all of reality, yeah, that would do it. Mxyz had been trapped waiting for his playmate, his buddy, his hero, Superman, to come and save him, but Supes didn't even know he was missing. So when Mxyz finally broke himself out, he said, "Okay, that's it. Playtime is over. All these years of me messing around with you, that's been for fun. Those have been games. Time to get serious." And he put Superman in a challenge that tested him like never before, with the very memories of his son and wife hanging in the balance. At number 7, there are currently tons of great villains in the Thor book. what with Loki and Malekith plotting the downfall of the Nine Realms, but if I had to pick one, it has to be MANGOG, because he was their big end plan. He was the big weapon that Malekith had been waiting for all this time, and at the very end of 2017, he finally arrived. This is a villain who had probably the biggest buildup of any character this year, as he spent all year charging towards Asgard with the narrator constantly talking about the legend of MANGOG, about what a huge threat he was, about how every time he was defeated he came back stronger and he only thought of one thing, the death of all the gods. And when he finally arrived, he did not disappoint. He treated Asgard like prison and immediately took out the biggest guy there, because earlier this year, they had been building up the War Thor. They had spent all this time talking about what a badass the War Thor was, showing us how strong he was, showing how he could crush any foe he faced, and MANGOG took him down brutally in one issue without breaking a sweat, letting everyone know, yeah, that buildup wasn't messing around. This is a threat that actually could end all the gods. If he had been in more than just one issue this year, he would definitely be higher on this list, so I have a feeling we're going to be seeing him on next year's version of this list as well. Number 6, the Jailer. The Jailer is an Inhuman who was sentenced to serve out the rest of his life in a secret prison in space, only to eventually go insane, break free, rebel against his captors, kill them off, and then in his madness, he took control of the prison and proceeded to torture his fellow inmates forever, and I do mean forever. He uses the advanced technology of this facility to torture the captives until they die, then resurrects them so that he can do it all over again. His powers let him feed off the pain and suffering of these inmates, and he's been doing it for centuries. He's been at this for so long, he might not even remember who he was before he became the Jailer, but that's because at this point, there's nothing left. Just a creature that has turned this prison into an inescapable hell. Number 5, the Riddler. Now, it was hard choosing whether to put the Riddler or the Joker on this list, as this year both of them tore Gotham City apart. They divided it right down the middle, with both of them laying claim to half the city in the war of jokes and riddles, each side enlisting their own supervillain soldiers, each side killing countless citizens just to come out on top, but in the end, it was the Riddler who did the most despicable act of all. It was the Riddler who killed a child all so that he could drive his father insane, just to try and turn him into the most laughably stupid supervillain ever, and it was all just so that he could try to make the Joker laugh. That was it. Not for riches, not for revenge, he did it as a joke. And this was the thing that broke Batman, that made Batman lose hope that someone could be redeemed, that someone should be left to live. It was the thing that made Batman finally break his no-killing rule. Or at least attempt to. So from making Batman do something that he swore he would never do, the Riddler wins out in the end. Number 4 is the most dangerously despicable duo of droids in space, BT and 000. These two droids were created for assassination and torture, and yet they still act towards each other the way that C-3PO and R2-D2 act, which makes them so much creepier, but at the same time, kind of funny. We had been getting a laugh at them because this whole time, they were the servants of Dr. Aphra. They were incredibly dangerous, but they were on a leash. We laughed at them because, oh, isn't it funny that a droid that talks like C-3PO is talking about torture, but we all know that he's restrained. We all know it's gonna be okay. But this was the year when they got off that leash and reminded audiences, oh yeah, we're actually horrible monsters. We're not on anyone's side but our masters, and now we're our own masters. We're in charge. They turned the tables on Aphra in a way that was chilling, and it makes you look back at every moment you had laughed at up until then, and you view those moments in a completely different way now. You see they are nothing to laugh at. For number 3, we're turning back to Superman and looking at the villain who tormented him more this year than even Mixie's Spitlick, Oz. For years we had been wondering who was the mysterious Oz, a strange figure who seemed to know everything about Superman, was capable of containing his greatest foes, had a fortress outside of space and time, and was 100% untraceable with completely mysterious motivations. This mystery had been building for years, but this year it was finally revealed that it was Jor-El, Superman's father from Krypton, and he had come to Earth to protect his son because he was wrong. Earth wasn't fit for his son. Earth was a lost cause, and he was going to take Superman and his family away from this planet. This character gets this high on the list because he made Superman doubt everything. The mission his father had sent him to Earth for. Was Earth really worth saving? Was the father he had tried to live up to really a hero after all? And when you finally see why Jor-El was this way, what made him turn into Oz, it actually makes him one of the most tragic figures this year. Now these last two were really hard to choose between, but at number 2, I had to go with Barbatos. And not just Barbatos, but his entire team of the Dark Knights, including the Red Death and the Batman Who Laughs. I don't even know how to begin summing these guys up. Just throw the word dark into a big pot, then dip Batman in there, heat to the appropriate temperature, and bam, you're good to go. Okay, there's a bit more to it than that. Barbatos is the god of the dark multiverse, a collection of failed universes where every worst possibility happened. It's the nightmares and worst thoughts of all of our heroes given shape, and now he wants to use Batman as a portal into our world, along with his army of evil Batman to take control of our multiverse. It might sound like a crazy idea, but he basically represents the old gods for the DC universe, and he's really just an excuse for these writers like Scott Snyder or James Tynion to say how dark can we get with these characters. But the thing that makes him work is just that. It's that Scott Snyder, James Tynion, and many other writers at DC can get really freaking dark, and for the past 6 months, we've watched them use this twisted version of Batman as an excuse to get as dark as they possibly can. Watching the origin story of the Batman Who Laughs was horrifying, and seeing Barbatos actually make Batman give up and accept defeat, it was one of the most chilling moments in any book this year. And lastly, at number 1, Steve Rogers. Okay, actually, evil, alternate reality, HYDRA's Steve Rogers. Oh dear God, someone just give him a new codename already. Make him the new Red Skull or something already, because that description is way too long. Anywho, so Barbatos and the Dark Knights got up to number 2 because they were evil Batman, and that's pretty bad. But you know what's worse? Evil Captain America. For over a year, we watched this imposter Captain America setting up plans to take down all the other heroes, and in one single issue, all of his plans came to fruition. And as someone who had read his series and watched every single step he took to set up every single one of these plans, watching him flip all those cards over at once, it was stunning. It gave you that feeling of, oh, this is what it looks like when the greatest strategist on the planet turns evil. He took over the entire country in just a day and was able to twist the minds of the public into applauding him for it. He actually made people want to be enslaved by HYDRA and think it was for the best. And he thought it was for the best too. Barbatos knows he's evil. He loves that about himself. But you know that old saying that every villain is the hero of their own story? That's more true for Steve-O than anyone else. He's blowing up entire cities, putting people in death camps, and then when he sits down with Sharon Carter, he tells her, listen, I don't know why you can't understand why this is for the best. Really, when you think about, we're the good guys. The level of evil that this character pulled off, and yet still kept viewing himself as being 100% just and good, it really did just make him detestable. It sent a shiver up your spine. And in the end, the thing that gets him this high is just what Steve-O represents. He represents anyone who preaches hate, preaches prejudice, preaches discrimination, and then claims that they're the true face of America, which is something very sinister and something that exists in reality. So for putting a face on that, and for being the embodiment of that specific brand of hatred and evil, evil Steve Rogers gets the number 1 spot. That's it for our list of the best villains in comics in 2017. If you want to see our list on best characters, then it's popping up right over there. And next week, we're doing the top 10 moments. And then after that, we're going to count down the top 100 comics. So if you want to see all that, then hit that subscribe button and share this around the web. It's the best way to help this channel grow. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time.